Good afternoon, family. I'm an addict and my name is Bonnie.
Bonnie.
I say fuck a lot, so apparently some people may get offended. I don't know where you got high, but where I got high, we say fuck a lot. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and how I stay here. We all know how I got here. Definitely know how I got here. So I'm the youngest of 8 children, and my brother died shooting dope 21 years ago. And I always have to say it because I cannot afford for his death as an addict who never found recovery to go unspoken or unheard or to be in vain. You know, my mother buried her son and I had double digits clean. And it was a choice he made. And what we don't see, or what I didn't see when I was getting high, is how it affected everybody else. Because I'm self-centered and self-willed, and when I was getting high, I just wanted to party. I'm not hurting anybody. Leave me alone. I'm not doing shit. I'm not taking your shit. Just leave. And I didn't see how, you know, the ravages of this disease attacked everyone, including obviously my mother who buried her son. So I've been in recovery my entire adult life. I got clean at 18, not 19. And we were outside and somebody said, oh my God, that's wonderful. It's a double-edged sword. You know, I didn't do a lot of living before I got, you know, the drugs brought me to my knees. And it robbed me of many experiences that many people had before they got to the rooms, like partying in college. I was doing laundry for everybody else because everybody else was farting and I was already clean. So, you know, it works both ways. I didn't lose a family. I didn't lose a husband or a wife or a job. I didn't even give myself the opportunity to have anything to lose. I was too busy getting high. So eventually, after several ODs, my family did a family intervention. That's when everybody gets in a circle and tells you what an asshole you are and how you need to. And I got clean at a time where there wasn't a lot of information. My parents are immigrants to the United States, and I was misinformed by misinformed people. There wasn't a lot of information. You know, one of my brother, the one who died, used to smoke weed, and it was like this big thing, like, you know, he smokes marijuana, and I was like, oh shit, you know, it was earth shattering. You know, the cops would bring my brother home every day because he was sniffing glue in the corner, and I used glue to make model airplanes, and he would take it to go sniff glue. I'm an adult in recovery. I don't know why the fuck he sniffed glue, because that shit gives you a headache, but that's besides the point. And he, that was a shitty high, I'll tell you that. But eventually, you know, they put me in rehab, and I wasn't ready. I got to Narcotics Anonymous through H&I for all the wrong reasons, and with no desire whatsoever to surrender to absolutely anything. I was not done. By far. I couldn't fathom the mere thought that I could never get high again was beyond anything that I could think of. And how could I never have a bottle of wine with dinner again? And I remember in rehab, my therapist said, you know, most people have a glass of wine. And I said, no, I have a bottle before, I have a bottle during, and then after, I have an after dinner Cointreau because I thought I was fucking bougie. I didn't even like the shit. I didn't like it. I liked the effect that it gave me. I didn't like the taste, so I would, you know, I would chase everything with water or something because I was chasing the effect, obviously not the alcohol that came with it. My first drug of choice was food. Love food. And but I was 5 years old and I would eat my feelings. And in my culture, a fat kid is a healthy kid, and I was very fucking healthy. So healthy that my family calls me gorda, which means fat, because I was fat. And I was fat because I would eat my feelings, and that's how I would cope. I know that today. If I was my parent, I would have put me in therapy, but there wasn't a lot of information. And so culturally, it's a wonderful thing. My siblings got vitamin B12 shots. I didn't get shit. No, no, Gorda eats so well. Look how well. And I was doted upon because I was a heifer. So I ran with that. Y'all think it's funny. It's true. It's very true. You Cuban, you know, you healthy. Um, you know, and that led to bigger and better things, obviously. Eventually, I bumped into the drugs and I was completely liberated. The moment that I used my first drug, I was free. I was in love. It was perfect. It worked until it didn't. But it worked and it liberated and gave me the ability to speak to people. It gave me the ability to stand up for myself. It gave me the ability to look at you in the eyes. It gave me the ability to be fearless. It gave me courage. So the drugs worked until they didn't anymore. At some point, I crossed the line of no return. I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how, but I can tell you that after I peaked in this wonderful thing called drug addiction, then it was all downhill to the degradation. And if you're from South Florida, where I'm from, I took my first hit in Brickell Palace and I took my last hit in Overtown. And that pretty much runs the scope of my addiction, of where it took me in a very quick. You know, I remember at the very end of my addiction, I was walking like in the middle of the ghetto, the only white kid in the middle of, and I'm just walking. And this friend of mine goes to pick me up. He goes, "Where are you going?" "That way." "Where are you coming from?" "That way." You know, I would walk aimlessly. I don't know where I was going. I don't know where I was coming from. I just walked like a lot for no, I don't know why. Um, so it took me to, it was quite a journey, to say the least. You know, it was quite a journey. So eventually I'm in rehab and I'm still angry, obviously. You know, I came into the rooms with myself. You know, the only thing I'd put down was the drugs. And I came in just to appease the gods. You know, my siblings, my mom, the nagging, the bitching, the noise, the pleas, the crying, you know, when are you gonna stop? What is this? You know, it was constant. Because the only human being that would walk into the door, I was either very ashamed and I was real humble and I would take everybody's shit, or a beast would walk in the door, kicking, screaming, and throwing shit and destroying the house. So my mother didn't know who was walking in that day. And I got high in a time way before cell phones. So when I was gone, I was gone. You know, and here was my mother, who has never driven in her life, who would walk all over town looking for her kid. And she would, like, my mom was like the SWAT team. She'd go into she'd find me and she'd kick down the door, walk in, slapping everybody. They're like, from the doorpost. My mom would, they would come out and say, "Bonnie, you gotta go." I'm like, "Why'd you tell her I was here?" "And your mom slapped me. You gotta go." And I'm like, you know, why did you say anything? She slapped the shit out of me. "Go." She came to get you. And, you know, I come from a place where my mother does not believe in tough love. She believes in love. And she believed that she could love her children into health. And it worked. You know, it worked. My mother always said that no matter how dark it got, I always had a warm shower, a clean bed, and food. And she was right. And she loved me through it. So eventually I had a pass to go home from rehab. And I used to obviously get high across the street from my house. And I was right at the corner. They're about to turn and take me home. And I knew I was going to get high. I had about 3 months clean at the time. I knew it was it. I knew it, you know, racy heart, sweaty palms, got to go to the bathroom really bad. And I said, "Turn around." And they were like, "What?" I said, "Just take me back." And it was the first time I was more afraid of getting high than I was of staying clean. And hence my recovery began. And you know, I don't know when I completely surrendered. It didn't happen overnight. My desire to get high lasted well over a year. I don't know what these kids are using today that, you know, their desires lifted after 30 days. I'm like, that's some shitty stuff, man. A year and a half, I was sweating that shit like, God, give me 15 minutes. You know, I was going through it, but I stayed. And the people who came before me really, really loved me because I was unlovable. I was obnoxious. I was angry. I was hateful. I was angry. I can do a laundry list of how nasty I was. They didn't give a shit. The moment I woke up in the morning, there was someone there all day long. There was only one meeting a day, and it was at 8:30 at night. All day long, these people were like, come on, we're going to go over here. All day long, I was like a puppy going wherever they took me. And they kept me clean. You know, and I believed them when they told me, I bought into it. When they told me that it was going to get better and the desire would be lifted. And I believed them because I was desperate. I was desperate for something different. So I surrendered, and, you know, my first step wasn't that hard at that point. It took me long enough to get there, but once I got there, I was good, and I was in really good company. So then I start working my steps, and when I get to 2 and 3, I'm a recovering Catholic, you know, because I grew up with a punishing God. If I dirtied my Sunday best, God was going to punish me. If I cussed, God was going to punish me. If I fought, God was going to punish me. I have 6 brothers. I fought every fucking day. I was going to hell by the age of 6, so I'm like, screw it. It's all down here, you know, it's everybody's game at this point. So when I got to Narcotics Anonymous and I got to my 2nd and 3rd step and they're talking about God, I'm like, oh shit, you know, this is some cult or it's a religious sect and they're gonna shove God down my throat and I'm not playing this and I'm not doing this. And I start to tune out, and there was this old timer who would ask me every day, you got a higher power yet? No. You got a higher power yet? And they used to tell me, you know, you got to get a sponsor, you're going to get high, you got to get a higher power or you're going to get high, and you got to walk the steps or you're going to get high. And out of a pure resentment, I turn around and the man says, do you have a higher power? Yeah, Donald Duck. And he goes, it's going to work. So I'm not one of these people who actually understands what Donald Duck says. There are people who actually can even talk like him. So out of pride and resentment alone, I was stuck with the fucking duck for 2 years. And I remember when desperation would kick in, I'm like, fuck, I should have picked the rat, you know, something else. It was I don't know what compelled me. So now I have this friend of mine back home that every time he finds a Donald Duck, you know, he gives it to me, I guess, as a shameful reminder of how petty I was. And it's on top of my dining room table, actually. But eventually I came to understand that it was a power greater than myself, not necessarily God. Her name is God, my name is Bonnie. It works out really good. I learned through my process of recovery that less is more for me. When before I used to have to do all of this stuff and try to connect to the power that was greater than my parents' self, I learned that I didn't have to pick their God for redemption, that I could find my own God and that I could find my own peace. I learned that the God of my understanding lives within me. So when I tell people I am God, I'm not kidding. You know, because this is what works for me. I learned that through this journey that my higher power has to be something I can feel. It has to be palpable. It's me. So the sun worked really good. It gives life to everything else. I can feel it, heats my skin. I'm down. So every morning I rise before the sun because I have to wake up 15 minutes before my head does because I can't stop the committee from going. So that's when I get up and I meditate. And as the sun rises, I'm real grateful. I woke up another day. I always say when I wake up, the devil says, damn, she's up again. And I nailed it. I woke up. The rest of the day, that's on me. So my higher power evolved with my recovery, and thank God, you know, thank God. And I did I went in search for answers because blind faith did not work for me. You know, and many moons ago, my grandmother was in her deathbed and she's taken to the hospital, and there's a nun, there's a true story, couldn't make this up. There's a priest, they rush him in, he's in a diabetic seizure. The nun is crying, this old Irish woman. And I'm looking at her mad as hell. I'm in this transition of finding a power greater in myself, and she's crying. So I pull out my Catholic card and I said, why are you crying? And she goes, well, my friend is dying. I said, but you promised us the kingdom of God. You should be rejoicing. I was mad. And she looked at me, she goes, you're right. But you see, we miss the flesh. I miss my friend. And I'm looking at her like I'm not sold on this. And I said, well, you know, do you have blind faith? She goes, no. But when I lack faith, I pray for faith. And that's exactly what I needed to hear at that point, because I lacked faith at that point in my life. I was looking for answers everywhere. She has no clue how she helped me, but she brought it home for me at that point. And I went on my merry way and found eventually a power that worked for me. So when I got to my first 4-step, I wrote. You know, they told me that anything I wrote, I would be liberated from. And I have an inability to accept personal responsibility. So I wrote for 8 months. I'm not one of these people who sits on their writing, no, I wrote. I had a lot of shit to write about. And what I was hearing was, oh, I don't have any, you know, I'm not responsible for any of this. Once I put it down on paper, no harm, no foul, I'm good. So, and on my 5th step, the literature says that we admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being. It doesn't say someone in recovery. It doesn't say your sponsor. It doesn't say your friends. It says another human being. And I'm shady as hell, so I got on the city bus. First woman that sat down, I said, lady, I got a story for you. And I pounded out that whole 4-step. And when I was done, I nodded, thanked her, and got off. She's still in therapy, I bet, but I was good. I was really good. I was like, yes, you know, I did. I came back real proud. I did my 5th step, you know. And I learned that it is best to work your steps with someone in recovery that can lead you to the next step. But you know, self-willed, but it was thorough, all right. I got to 6 and 7, and I had already, by then, I had changed sponsors, and this individual who has since passed was my sponsor for the next 20 years. And it was, you know, you get in where you fit in, and you find your tribe, and I did. And for 20 years, he worked for me, and it was a wonderful journey. Now my sponsor, through osmosis, is my grand sponsor, was my grand sponsor, and just kind of worked out that way. So when I got to my 6th and 7th step, then things got really rough for me, because I didn't like the kid I was before I picked up the drugs. I didn't use drugs because I was that kid. But I really liked who I became after. You see, I was just a fat kid. I could fight because I had 6 brothers, but I was just a fat kid. And I didn't really like her. She didn't talk to anybody. I didn't make eye contact with anybody. I didn't have any friends. I was overtly shy. I didn't fit in anywhere. I was, you know, I was a round peg in a square box. I just kind of danced to my own drummer. I really didn't fit into society. And I was in kindergarten, and I was in 1st grade and 5th grade and 6th grade, and I had nothing in common with the rest of the world. Nothing. The only people I spoke to were my siblings. When it was my birthday, I'm screwed. My birthday's on Thanksgiving. So I was kind of screwed. Nobody was going to come over, but I really didn't have anybody to come over. I didn't want anybody to come over. My siblings were enough for me. So when I got to 6 and 7, and I have to let go of these defects of character and these shortcomings, you see, I didn't want to go back to who I was. I liked who I became. Outspoken, courageous, nasty, mean. You'd hit me, I'd hit your ass right back. I got my ass whooped, but I'd try. I died trying. You know, I died trying. You know, I was fast walking, fast talking. I loved who I became. And when my sponsor is saying to let that shit go, I was like, I'm not ready to let her go. I don't want to be who I am not. I don't want to be her. So I learned, rest his soul, he said, you have the ability to become anybody you want to be. And this is who I chose. I chose to be a woman of integrity. I chose to love you no matter where you're at. Some of you I love a little bit less. Some of you I love a lot more. I chose to stand up for women in recovery because there are so few of us. I chose to recognize that a woman's world is way different than a man's world. I chose to fight for those who don't have a voice. I chose to be the mother that my daughter would always dream of, and the daughter my mother always prayed for. I chose to always come from a place of love. I chose to always help a newcomer stay clean because I will do anything for your right to live. And this is what I chose, but I say fuck a lot. But I love you, you know. So 6 and 7 were hard. They were really hard for me in finding my place in the world. You know, I'm this small Cuban kid from Miami. And in my culture, being a woman is bad enough, but being an addict is like, you are the scum of the earth. I was ashamed to my entire culture. I carried the weight of the world, not because I was a female and outspoken, but because I was an addict. And it's shameful in our culture, like really fucking ugly. My mother would tell people, no, Gorda's nerves are shot. That means I was coked the fuck out, you know? But, you know, my brother died shooting dope, and my mother told people at the funeral, like, not people, like everybody from recovery was there, but the people who weren't, or like people who she worked with, she would tell them, no, my son died of a heart problem. Yeah, I stopped from shooting dope. I was so angry and so offended that she would quiet his voice, because this disease stems way beyond my brother's funeral, and it has touched everybody's life. And she was robbing him of that. And I couldn't understand. I can't, the day my brother died, I walked into the house kicking, I couldn't shut up. I could not shut up. I could not. I was so angry. And my brothers are all looking at me like, please stop, bro, please. And I just kept ranting and raving and ranting and raving. And one of my brothers is like, let's go take a walk. And he says, you got to stop, man. That's mom's son. No, but he knew better, da, da, da. And I couldn't stop. So when I walked back in, and I could not stop myself. I really couldn't stop myself. My mother says, you know, she's truly a matriarch in our family. And she says, you know, Gorda, my son may not have lived in peace, but God knows he'll die in peace. I still didn't get it, you know. I kept going until, you know, because she is so loving, she comes and she sits me down. She goes, come here, sit down. She goes, you see my hand? I said, yeah. She says, you see how my fingers are different? Yes, ma'am. You see how I need them all to make a hand? I said, yeah. Well, that's how I need my children. You may all be different, but I need you all to make my family. Just let them go. And through that experience, I learned to let go of those who choose to go out, because I was that girl that would go into the dope hole and pull your ass out, like the SWAT team, like, come on, put the dope down, take you back to a meeting. And, you know, I learned a long time ago that some of us have to die so others can live. And by the age of 10, my daughter had attended 70 funerals. That is unheard of. And that is her truth. I kept coming back, obviously, and I got to my 8th and 9th step, and I had to make this list, so I made a list. You know, I made a list. And my sponsor says, well, that list ain't long enough. You need to add people who didn't catch you. Are you kidding me? I'm not a snitch. I'm not going to put myself out there. Like, I'm not stupid. He goes, I didn't tell you what you were going to do with the list. I told you to make the list. I was such a nasty human being that I had to put the waiter at such and such a restaurant, because these were nameless and faceless people, because I was an equal opportunity asshole. I was nasty across the board to everybody. So they were nameless. How was I ever going to make amends to those people? By staying clean, I made amends to those people. One, I stopped being an asshole. And two, I go out of my way to help people, because it's in the uncomfortability where I become more comfortable. I learned that making an amend is not an apology. I can't go up to somebody and say, I'm sorry, I fucked your husband. It doesn't work, because that is transference of guilt. That's because I feel like shit, so we can all feel like shit. An amend is to repair. Example, I have a glass plate, drop the plate. I'm sorry, it does not compone itself again. But if I sit there for 15 hours with a bottle of crazy glue and put that bad boy together, I've then mended it, which means I have to go through the act of repairing the damage done. And I have done that in every instance of my life, in recovery, obviously. There was a human that that loved me more than I loved myself during my addiction. He really, really loved me. And I loved my drugs a lot. I loved my drugs so much that I would convince him that my infidelities were nothing but a simple human act. Girl, I could sell ice to Eskimos. Don't get it twisted. And I had him convinced. And he would look at me like, damn, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, no, honey, I love you. I love you. But John over here, you know, it's just a sexual thing. Don't mix it up. And I did a lot of damage because this human loved me. So when I had 5 years clean, I knew that he was in a federal penitentiary doing time. And I don't know how much you guys know about licenses of attorneys. There are no pictures on it. So I borrowed my friend's Florida bar and I went into a federal institution, and they told him, your attorney's here. And he goes, that's not my attorney. But you know, any inmate wants to get out of the room, and he goes, and there I was. And I said, you know, I'm here to make amends. And he said, you know, I forgave you when it happened. I said, no, you forgave me when you caught me. Sit down, I got a story. And there was a lot of crying, and he wanted me to stop. And you know me, I can't shut up to save myself. And I went on. But what I did was, every Sunday for the next year and a half, I gave up my Sundays, and I would sit in a federal institution because he didn't have visits on Sunday. Nobody would go on Sunday. I didn't want to sit in a federal institution eating potato chips every fucking Sunday, but I have to amend the damage done. And I have to become uncomfortable to become comfortable again. And 4 months, bless you, and 4 months before his time was due, we parted ways. I said goodbye, and I've never seen him again. Not by, you know, I just never bumped into him again. I don't know where he's at, you know, but I know that my peace with him was done. You know, bless you. There was a lot of crying, there was a lot of laughing, and there was a lot of shooting the shit in a year and a half. But what it was, how do I repair the damage done? You know, obviously to my family, I found it easy enough. Just don't pick up. You know, be on time. Don't be an asshole at, you know, on Thanksgiving. Don't come out of the side of your neck on Christmas Eve. You know, just eat, you know. Because I was that person who would move food around to act like I'm wondering, damn, can we go? Like, until I would form some sort of a ruckus so I could say, you see, I'm out. When I just wanted to leave. I didn't want to be there. You know, I'm accountable today. And my daughter called me about 20 minutes before I came in, and we have family night, because by now the kids are in college and stuff, where my sister sets up family game night, and my nieces and nephews and my daughter and everybody goes to my sister's house, and we play inappropriate family games. you know, like adult charade and shit. But what it is it's the opportunity for us to be together as a family because everybody's grown. And my daughter called me half an hour ago and she goes, Mom, we'll send pictures from family game night because I know you're in Atlanta, you're going to miss it. And I love you guys a lot, man, but I love them more and I miss that shit. So I will virtually be at game night to be able to be with them. And I sent them a link and they got on to be able to hear me share. So my sister said, don't say fuck a lot, but I screwed that one up. So I got to my 10th step, which happens to be my personal favorite step. Because when I first got to my 10th step, and you have to do a personal inventory, and promptly, the keyword being promptly admitted it, didn't really work out that way. It just looks really good on paper. I would screw up, and then I would go to everybody that I liked a lot and say, you know, I said this and this to her, but she said this. So the people I like would say, oh, I would have come out of the side of my neck too. And I'm like, that's what I thought. So I would gather allies for 2 or 3 days until I knew that I was wrong. And then I would go to my sponsor who would check me on it. And that would take another 2 days. So a week after I had screwed up, I would finally come and apologize. Well, I learned 2 things. 1, I hate apologizing. 2, don't screw up, and then you don't have to apologize. What I learned was if you make an amend immediately, there is less damage done because then there's no resentment. Today I learned that I don't need an apology from anybody else. I really don't give a shit. But a lot of people need an apology from me. And I'm like, I cuss a lot, as you can see, and some people think I'm kidding when I'm not. They're no smarter for it. But I know when I'm not kidding. So I'll come up to you real quick and say, look, I'm really sorry. That was wrong. And you know, I came out of the side of my neck. I'm really sorry. Oh my God, you're just kidding. No, I wasn't. I wasn't kidding. No, I wasn't. No, that was not a joke. I was being mean. You know, I learned not to gather allies because I learned that everybody is fighting to stay alive in this room. Because, you know, when we first come in and he's sitting across the room with his 30 days clean and he's looking really good to me. And then we hook up and that is the love of my life because he really, really gets me. I love him. 3 weeks later, you can't stand the motherfucker. And you start gathering allies. All your girls like, did you see him? And you calling them at the meeting. Who's he with? What'd he say? What's he doing? And then everybody looking at him hard as hell. Like coming out of the side of your neck. You know, you can drive people out of these rooms because somebody's going to be uncomfortable enough to not want to go to that meeting and not have enough courage to go to another meeting. And you have fucked your way right out of Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I learned that if you come here to get laid, oh, you're going to get laid. But at the end, you're going to get fucked. And we all know how to do that part, but here we are struggling to stay clean. I learned to, you know, love people where they're at. I learned to, you know, stay true to myself. I learned not to fuck my way out of Narcotics Anonymous. I learned that I don't shit where I eat. I learned that the newcomer, you could look really damn good, but I know if you are like me, you are one sick puppy. And you know, I am not Captain Save-A-Ho. I am not here for that. You know, I learned that, you know, the moment you walk into the doors, the color of your skin, the sexual identity, your religious beliefs have all fallen off, and it is just one addict helping another. I will love you no matter what. And if I go to bed with you, I will not, because I am resentful. And I will love you again, but it's going to take a minute. you know, in my recovery today, I have learned that I can love you through your uncomfortability, but I can't love me through my uncomfortability. So I don't put myself in a place that it's going to keep me out of here. Because let me tell you, I will sit right in this bad boy and talk about your ass in front of you, but I'm going to stay clean. But I don't know if that person has the ability to do that. So, there's 100 million people on this damn planet, and about half of them ain't got coronavirus, so we ain't got to worry about it. So when I do a personal inventory, I usually, as I said earlier, I get up very early. I don't start working until 9:30 in the morning. I get up at 5. No, I'm not that spiritual. I just have a lot of noise in my head. So I have to get up half an hour before so I can meditate. And I meditate for about half an hour, 45 minutes, because I can't stop the noises. So I can't do it at night. And I had to learn what works best for me. And that's what works best for me. I get up really early. It's nice and quiet. I meditate for 45 minutes. I don't think about the office. I don't think about my sponsees. I don't think about nothing. I just think about, where I am and where I want to be. Have I erred in any way, shape, or form? Have I told the people I love that I love them? Because I don't know when my ticket is up. And I would hate for anyone that I love to leave this place without knowing that they are truly loved by me. See, it's my responsibility to tell you how I feel. What you do with that, well, that's your responsibility. All I can tell you is that I love you. How you feel about that? That's all you, man. That shit ain't got nothing to do with me. I put it out there and I keep it moving. And so when I do my 10th step really early in the morning, I want to make sure that the people I love know that they are loved. I hope that they all feel that they are loved, because God knows I try. So I got to my 11th step, and which is 10 and 11, which is my amends in the daily. I try so hard not to screw up. My boss thinks I'm at the gynecologist's office in Atlanta. I left early yesterday. I said, I got to go. I got a doctor's appointment Friday. He goes, oh, really? What doctor? The gynecologist in Atlanta. He didn't, he doesn't know I'm in recovery. He don't need to know. He ain't gonna know. It's not his business. We ain't friends. He's not going to make it to these rooms. He doesn't use, and he will judge the shit out of me, and that will come out of the side of my neck. So you know what? He just needs to sign my paycheck, and I need to do my job, and I keep my life separate from my job. This is my life. And it's more important than the paycheck he can write me. So I'm at the gynecologist if he calls. The 12th step says that, through a spiritual awakening, when I first came here, I thought, I swear to God, because, I had to go to the other fellowship when I first got clean, because there weren't that many Narcotics Anonymous meetings. And I was waiting for the white light and the breeze. I thought it was going to be Beyonce shit flying away like this. None of that happened. Nothing. There was no light. There was no tingling. There was no cool breeze happening. Nothing happened. I happened. I got up one day and I didn't feel like using. And I got up one day and I was a responsible human being. I got up one day and I became a mom. I have 15 years clean. I had a child out of wedlock. Best decision I ever made in my life. In my life. I didn't give birth to this child. This child gave birth to me. I have bragging rights. I grew up misinformed by misinformed people. My daughter grew up very informed. Quite informed. My daughter grew up in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and through God's grace and mercy has never picked up a drug. And I don't think it's God's grace and mercy, let's be fair. She was informed of the consequences of getting high. She was very well aware, you do this, this can happen. Are you a gambling woman? You roll the dice, man. You roll the dice. You may or may not be an addict. I am, your father's not. It's your choice. And at 15, she says, you know, Mom, I'm not a gambling girl. I'm not willing to fuck up my life just to get high. I said, that's what's up, you know. And I really, you know, for those who know my daughter, I really have bragging rights. I'm such a good kid. I mean, she's 5'2". She thinks she's 6 feet tall. She's this big, you know. You know, she's 20. She's in college. She speaks multiple languages. She'll tell you get to a meeting. She'll tell you to call your sponsor. She'll tell you, you need to go to 90 meetings in 90 days because you are really out of this program. You need to go. And my sponsees will call her when they can't get a hold of me. She will tell normies, you know, normal people, you know, that's an inability to accept personal responsibility. You know, what part did you play in this? She's clearly the adult in this relationship. Clearly, you know, and I have to end with saying that a few weeks ago, and I shared about it at home, my daughter was really angry at me. She's 20 now, because, true story, she goes, I never, ever want to be like you, Mom. Oh. She goes, you're too nice. Oh. She says, you're too kind to unkind people. And she goes, you're too forgiving to people who don't deserve your forgiveness. You give people too many chances. I never want to be like you. And I'm looking at her, you know, young, fun, and full of cum. You're 20, girl. I was 22. You know, your body is strong. You know, you believe in the principle of things. You know, youth is truly wasted on the young. And I didn't say anything. You know, I didn't say anything. I was heartbroken. I was like heartbroken. Like, how could you not? So the next day I come back and I says, let me tell you, sit down. Let me tell you something. It's taken me 30 fucking years to be who I am today. It has taken me 30 years to love people where they're at. It has taken me 30 years to not judge anybody. It's taken me 30 years to forgive people who do not deserve forgiveness. And it's taken me 30 years to give people opportunities over and over again because people love me through my ugly. And I have learned to love them back. God bless you. Thank you for letting me share.